Hey, welcome back to an IndyCar race. It's been a little while, hasn't it? It's good to be back. Yes, I did get cooked. I forgot that once you've not been in the sun for a little while and then you get in the sun, you need to apply sunscreen like immediately and not like 10 minutes after you've been in the sun. Generally, that doesn't keep you from getting sunburned. Just a Top Gear top tip on that one. Iowa Speedway, high V IndyCar race weekend. I sung the praises of this last year, but I just got to say it again right off the bat. How great is it that a sponsor is this committed that not only did they bring a short oval back into the fold, but they built seats. I mean, we are standing right now on seats that I'm pretty sure were not here last year. There's a whole nother new suite that has been erected out of turn 4. There's all the same temporary suites that were here last year. There are new grandstands that they've kind of built. I don't know if they're permanent. I'm guessing they are temporary, but Iowa Speedway looks amazing, and let's be honest, that's High V that has done that. So a big shout out to them. And it's kind of ironic too, going into the High V IndyCar weekend, the High V driver won last week in Toronto. We got to talk to Christian Lundgaard this morning. Here's what he had to say about his victory in Toronto. A little bit lower drag setup for Christian Lundgaard this weekend, the most recent IndyCar winner. First of all, since we weren't in Toronto, tell us about the race win because it was dominant.
Yeah, I do think we had the best car in the race, and then I wouldn't say for the most of the weekend because we didn't start very competitive in practice one, and we've had a lot of conversations following the weekend in terms of that was the one weekend we've managed to turn things around from practice one to basically the end of the weekend, and I think that's the positives for us to take away. Even though that we did win the race, I think that is more beneficial for us in terms of awareness that we were able to do that. And haven't been able to do that previously. So I think it just proved that the team is improving and we're progressing forward. But it was definitely a weekend to remember, and what a place to have your first race. I didn't get to celebrate. I flew home and slept in my own bed, which was also great. And my dad called me the following morning and said, "How does it feel to be a race winner?" And I said, "Well, I'm on the couch. The couch feels the same, and I feel the same. It's the season ain't done yet."
What have been the changes and what have been the biggest improvements?
Honestly, I don't think it's as simple as that. It isn't like we've put more development into this, and because we put a lot of development into the 500 last year, and that didn't seem to work for us. So it's honestly just been simplicity and keeping things simple. And making sure we get a read on what the things that we're changing and understand the car better, and obviously our changes after Indy and Detroit in terms of personnel, I think has also made a difference. But again, it's just simplified things for us and put things into a better and bigger perspective.
So we did have one practice today, an hour and a half. It was pretty busy out there. I think 28 cars on the entry list this weekend. And the fact that there's 28 cars means that the track density is the most dense I've ever seen an IndyCar racetrack. It's going to be a hell of a 2 races. It's going to be brutal from the standpoint of, can you get clean air? Can you get clean track? Can your car work in traffic? That's going to be a huge key going forward. We didn't qualify today, which is very strange. They're qualifying tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's the traditional doubleheader qualifying where one lap qualifies for one race and the second lap qualifies for the second race. I'm not really sure why they're doing that. I would prefer that they be like qualifying like right now, or maybe even, here's an idea, qualify at night and use the lights you have here at least once. I think that would be kind of cool. I should also mention that this is a free day for spectators to come out, so that's another positive about this race weekend. The practice was fairly benign, despite the fact that it was a bit chaotic. We're going to look at the Fast 6 here in just a second, but a couple of notable speeds that were quick, and I think I need to shout out that because they weren't in the top 6. Connor Daly was fast. He's subbing once again for Simon Pagenaud in the number 60 car. The car that he got replaced in, the number 20 for Ed Carpenter Racing, was also fast. Ryan Hunter-Reay, three-time winner here of this event. A lot of people earmarked him as a potential race winner going into this weekend. I think Ryan Hunter-Reay's got a pretty good shot of knocking Joseph Newgarden off of his perch as the king of Iowa Speedway. The only incident today was Augustine Canapino, who spun on the warm-up lane. That's kind of expected as a rookie, but thankfully, as we know, warm-up lane spins can prove to be pretty catastrophic. Thankfully, everything was fine. Augustine drove away, came back out relatively shortly. And Christian Lundgaard is also fast here, which is kind of interesting. We saw the 45 fast here last year with Jack Harvey, a little bit of home field advantage perhaps for the Hy-Vee team. But as you'll hear Christian Lundgaard say later, I mean, the Rahal team really has taken a step up, obviously winning a race. But if you look at the low that they were at in Indy, it's night and day from where we last left. So let's look at the Fast 6 on today. And it's no surprise that Joseph Newgarden is fast at Iowa at 176.4 miles per hour. But Scott McLaughlin is closing in on him. And in fact, Joseph Newgarden even mentioned in the press conference that Scotty Mac's beginning to figure out what Joseph is doing around here. At 175.9 miles per hour, Scott McLaughlin could be the biggest challenger to Joseph Newgarden. We'll just have to wait and see. Marcus Ericsson, who's kind of turned into an oval meister. You'll hear from him later on in this video at 175.8. Colton Herta, also pretty good at Iowa from time to time. Hasn't had the results yet, but he's looking good in fourth at 175.5 miles per hour. Fifth is Pato Award at 175.4. He was the other driver to win the Hy-Vee doubleheader last year when Joseph Newgarden crashed out of the race. And Takuma Sato, another driver you'll hear from later in this video, at 175.2 in his return to Chip Ganassi Racing. So, because we got to talk to quite a few and a good variety of drivers today, let's hear some thoughts on what they think about Iowa Speedway. What's kind of your feeling racing here at Iowa Speedway?
First of all, I really enjoy racing here. I think the racing on this place is probably the best of the year. You know, the way we go 2-3 wide and the way the tires falls off and creates really interesting dynamics in the races. So for me, it's one of my favorites coming here because of that. It's just so much fun to race here. I think for us as a team, we've been struggling a little bit here the last few years, Ganassi. So we had a test here a few months ago, which we thought was good. Don't know until we're here on the race weekend, obviously, but if you have a good car here, this track is awesome. If you have a bad car, it's a long 250 laps, I tell you that. But yeah, I enjoy being here, and it's really cool what they've done with the place. I was walking up here, and it's like, this doesn't feel like Iowa, this feels like something else. So it's cool.
Really easy one. Your former winner here. Yeah. What do you got to do to get back in victory lane?
Pedal to the metal.
Well, it's just not a flat-out track.
You're absolutely right. The times that I was when I won here, it was pedal to the metal. Now there is a lot more going on with the tire deck, with the temperature, and for sure double header. Plus, when you qualify, the cars are in pounds, so now you got to focus on the race, not so much in qualifying. So there are so many things that change and less practice than what I used to have. But with those, I think to be honest, it's a consistent car. Any type of you can, be able to slow down the degradation on the tires is going to make you fast, and that's the way I see it.
What's your comfort level with this race, this unique race weekend format, and the physicality and mental difficulty of running two races here at Iowa?
It's Iowa. It's a fun little circuit. It's one of the tracks that I enjoyed the most last year. Just purely from the racing, we can drive three side by side and not really be worried about the guys on the inside or the outside sticking with us and respecting each other. And I think that's what makes this place great. And we just got great drivers on the grid. And just seeing what Hy-Vee does for this place, I personally got to thank Randy for that, and being a part of our team and on my car, and obviously last weekend delivering them a win. I couldn't really be a better timing coming in here as the defending winner.
At Indianapolis especially, I was super impressed with you. I know you didn't get the result, but you really didn't put a wheel wrong the entire time. Iowa is a much different circuit. It's very different here. What's your impression of this place, and how different is it for you coming to such a short and high-banked oval?
It's different, honestly. It's like another step to learn, because the super speedway is one thing, And this one is, of course, is slower, but it's still fast. And the secret is try to understand the lines, the gradation, and it's really bumpy too. So it was a good experience on the test, but I don't know what happened on the race yet. So tomorrow will be my first race here, and I want to do a good job.
You like Iowa? What do you think about Iowa?
I do love Iowa. I mean, it's the fact was this is probably most insane, intense racing, all the way, because 18 seconds, 19 seconds per lap, and 80% is the cornering. And you can imagine you can choose low lane, high lanes, multiple lanes available, which means like the actions all the way to the end. So this is a place you want to watch the fun for the racing, and for sure we'll have a busy time in the business in the cockpit, but we love it.
And so, from my perspective, this race is going to be tire wear, managing those tires, and managing the traffic. 28 cars out here is going to be absolutely crazy. High temperatures, like we saw last year, meant that we saw quite a field spread. In fact, in some races, less than 5 cars finished on the lead lap. That's unique for IndyCar racing these days, and frankly, unexpected. But on such a short track and with as much traffic as we've seen, I kind of describe this track as a mini Texas. And we look at Texas this year, it was very much a traffic race. Joseph Newgarden managed that best. Pato O'Ward also managed it very well. Alex Palou did a very good job at Texas. But typically, Iowa has been one of Alex Palou's absolutely worst racetracks. And of course, it wouldn't be an IndyCar video without talking about the dominance Alex Palou has shown this season. But in a lot of ways, as we discussed on the podcast the other day, honestly, Alex Palou could just drop these races. He could pretty much not even show up, and the rest of the season really favors him. They're all tracks that he's either done well at or won at in the past. So even if Alex Palou is anonymous this weekend, and there's nothing to indicate that he will be at this point, I don't think his championship is going to suffer all that much. Speaking of big picture, championship's always big picture, but the other big picture is silly season. And believe it or not, IndyCar has a month and a half left in its season, and that means that we're already looking ahead to 2024. And several drivers I got to talk to today are right in the midst of the silly season discussion. Here's what a few of them had to say, and one that got pretty specific.
To be completely honest, nothing is done. And, if something was done, that would have been communicated. So we're waiting. We can't really talk with other teams at the moment. So we're waiting on that. We're obviously talking with Ganassi. I've been there for a long time and really enjoyed my time there. We're talking with them, of course. But I know there's a lot of interest from other teams as well. So for me, important to just focus on the driving at this point, and try and do well on track, and the other things is going to sort itself out. So focus for me, do the driving well, and then hopefully in not too far away future, we will know what I will do.
Would you like to go back to full time, or are you happy doing the ovals? I mean, what's Takuma Sato's goal going into 2024?
Well, as a race driver, naturally you'd love to go to racing as much as you want to, of course. But realistically, thinking about Indy 500 I think, is a realistic option. For the rest of the race, we'll see. There is a few talks and negotiation can be done. Probably middle of the summer. But I think I'm really happy and extremely happy to getting back to the racing with Chip Ganassi Racing, and this obviously organization is the best feeling to my life too. So wishing just to keep going for the racing, but first and most, I think we want focusing for this weekend first.
Yeah, at the moment, MSR and I were negotiating, we're talking, and some good things going to come in Indy GP. So get ready.
So let's finish up by just kind of cleaning up the silly season right now. Helio Castroneves mentioned an announcement forthcoming with Meyer Shank Racing. My understanding is that it's going to be an Indy 500 only effort coupled with some sort of an IMSA sports car program. Now there's some questions, believe it or not, about Meyer Shank Racing and what they're going to be racing next year. I guess I'll leave it at that for now. But I think one of the answers that we are going to have is that Helio Castroneves is going to stick with Meyer Shank Racing in IMSA, but also join them for the Indianapolis 500. Now, whether that's a third car or whether that's a second part-time car remains to be seen. Marcus Ericsson's the other one that I think is really interesting out of that group. And frankly, he mentioned that other teams have been interested in him. I know of one offer in particular that, at least that I understand, is going to be presented to him the minute they are technically allowed to negotiate with him. And I think generally the paddock's conclusion about Marcus Ericsson is that he's not returning to Chip Ganassi Racing, and the most likely landing spot, if he doesn't, is Andretti Autosport. Now, whether that's in the 29 car replacing Devlin DeFrancesco, it's pretty well out there now that Devlin will not return to that seat. So where will he go? That will be the question as well, because I don't think Devlin DeFrancesco is done in IndyCar racing. But there's also a possibility that maybe Marcus Ericsson ends up in the 28 car, and then that would leave the 29 car open to somebody else. So there's a lot of moving parts in silly season, and like others have said in the media, it's really going to take that first major domino to fall, whether that's Alex Palou signing or maybe not re-signing with Chip Ganassi Racing and finding out how many seats are available at that team, and then we're going to find out all the way down the grid. But there are so many seats available. In fact, I talked to an Indy Lights driver today who has been in the headlines as a driver who could be an IndyCar driver next year. And I asked the question, look, if it comes down to a part-time run in IndyCar or a full-time ride in Indy NXT, what would you choose? And the answer was clear, and it was, I would like to be part-time in IndyCar. And so I don't know how many part-time seats, I don't even know how many full-time seats are going to be available to Indy NXT drivers. You would assume there would be a few, but the field is very quickly filling up, and even with the rumors of Pratt & Miller adding 2 more cars to the grid, you're talking about potentially anywhere from 29 to 30 full-time cars if everything goes well, and somehow we're still struggling to figure out where all these drivers are going to go. So it's really a wild offseason I think we're in for, and it's only going to get more wild when we get to August, because for many contracts, that's when the contract negotiation can begin in earnest. And so August, I think, is going to be a very intriguing month for IndyCar. So thank you guys so much for watching. 2 races at Iowa, race coverage tomorrow from me. I'm looking forward to it. I love Iowa Speedway. I love this little bull ring, and I love the fact that 28 Indy cars are going to be flying around this place at over 180 miles an hour.